It's Divas That Care Radio. Stories, strategies, and ideas to inspire positive change. Welcome to Divas That Care, a network of women committed to making our world a better place for everyone. This is a global movement for women, by women, engaged in a collaborative effort to create a better world for future generations. To find out more about the movement, visit divasthatcare.com after the show. Right now, though, stay tuned for another jolt of inspiration.
A strong, positive sense of self-esteem is your first step to anything you wish to accomplish. Yet too often, when we attempt to leave our comfort zone, we have that chorus of inner critics inside our heads, the itty-bitty shitty committee, as I like to call mine, whispering self-sabotaging doubt and untrue trash talk in our ear. This podcast celebrates women who rise above and move beyond any self-doubt and old, outmoded limiting beliefs. Women who have reconnected with who they truly are, that gorgeous, talented, fabulous gift to the world, who deserves recognition and unconditional love. My hope is that their insights inspire all of you to do the same. You know, the most beautiful thing any woman can wear is confidence. Here on Confidence in Bloom with the Divas That Care Network, I, Tina Spolatini, speak with women now secure in their own self-confidence, so we can learn from their stories and how they found themselves and became the magnificent role models they are to us all now. Today, I'm talking with Allison Prest. Allison was on the show a few months ago, and we talked about menopause and how it affects our bodies and what we can do to sort of handle the whole process. Allison is a professional menopause specialist, coach, and hypnosis practitioner. Her area of expertise is working with women, particularly those in their peri and postmenopausal phases. Her aim is to help women understand their bodies, minds, and souls as they go through the natural transformations into menopause and beyond. Together, you'll break down barriers and challenge outdated beliefs about aging. Her objective is to empower women to find self-acceptance and fill their cups. She's a certified Mind Rebel coach, a National Guide of Hypnosis graduate, and a menopause coaching specialist with Girls Gone Strong. And recently, she's joined the Menopause Expert Group and became a licensed menopause champion. Her vision is to serve her community of powerful women and help them live a passionate and fulfilled life. Well, welcome, Allison. I'm so excited for our conversation today.
Me too. I'm glad to be back. Thank you so much for round two. This is amazing.
Oh, yeah. I'm so excited. So we are going to talk menopause and the libido.
Yes.
So I'm going to let you lead the conversation first. I want to know everything and anything that women have to know.
Oh, well, okay. I will share the best that I can, the knowledge that I have. And so the reason I wanted to chat with you when we were last met is that it's such a subject that's so taboo to talk about. Like women, well, let's face it, even before menopause, talking about sex and libido and anything along that line is still a very uncomfortable conversation, even amongst our best of friends sometimes, right? Because it all comes down to your mindset around it, you know, what's deemed normal, what's deemed not normal. There's just so much around that subject that by the time we get to the menopause phase, and now we've got these physical changes, emotional changes, all adding and coming into the bedroom now, that you don't even know where to start and talk. And a lot of women just sort of suffer quietly. And the reality of it is that it is a important subject, and libido is one of the first things to start to diminish as we get into our menopausal stages. It's that one of the first signs of menopause is the lack of lubrication, and you know that we naturally produce, and we just kind of fluff it off as, oh, whatever. But it is a first sign. And then you get into, by the time you're knee deep into the menopause phase, it's a question that people are asking. It's, if you're on any of the socials and little groups, you see the like, what are you doing? What are you experiencing? How often are you having sex? Are you still having sex? You know, does sex hurt? How do I fix that problem? Like, it is such a question. And I find people are curious and they're a little bit more open to doing it on, strangely enough, a social group, because they can post anonymously versus talking about it with close friends, or even talking about it with your own doctor, because that's a hard conversation for a lot of us to say, hey, I'm having problems in this area. People have a hard time even talking to their partners about it. They don't want to talk about it. They just want it to just either automatically be fixed or they give up on it altogether. And so that's why I was like, we need to talk about this, and that
Yeah.
it is very
And
normal that this is happening, and that there are things that you can do if you're willing to just be a little bit more open-minded about it, and kind of work on a few things, that it's not just going to the doctor and getting the estrogen. It is working on your mindset, on communication, and really starting to open up the can of worms, and let's start talking about sex.
so I just want to add in there, it's also very difficult if we don't understand what's going on as the woman going through it. How is our husband or our partner going to understand it, right? You know, I mean, not all men are interested in what my wife is going through.
No.
Right. And so for him to say, yeah, exactly. And so for me to say, well, listen, you know, I'm having some difficulty, right? Sometimes it's a conversation that is hard to have. So how do you start that? That's I guess maybe my most intriguing part here is, how do you start that conversation? Like, look, honey, you know, we need to talk.
Yes, it all depends on the partnership you are currently in. And I think that is a hard subject, even at the best of times, even at our youngest of ages, when this was not even, you know, you could fire yourself up and seconds flat and be ready to go. It was already hard to have that conversation. And I think as women, bringing in knowledge and wisdom now because we're older, I think for most women, the safest space to start talking about it is probably with your friends first, right? Get used to the conversation and ask some questions. You know, an intimate conversation with your best friend is a safe zone. And getting curious about it and seeing what their reaction is, because you may all of a sudden realize, well, I'm not actually alone on this. This is very common. And people are willing to share information. And then from that, before even going to our partners, I would say, if you are lucky enough to have a GP, start talking to your GP. It's private. You can have those conversations. It's not going to get out there. But even asking a curious question with your doctor to say, okay, here's what I'm experiencing. What do you suggest? And then from that, then maybe starting to talk to your partner, and starting small bites, right? Bite size, like not full on, honey, we have to have a talk. That usually scares them. They usually go,
yeah, they don't like to hear that.
What have I done wrong?
What did I do now?
But it's funny. I always sort of resort to somehow have people's behavior. If you can have that safe space, and not everybody is good face to face in the light, right? Have you ever heard, like, when people say, when you're dealing with your children, sometimes the best conversations is in the car?
I actually support that 100% because I've proven that to myself, especially with the boys.
Yeah.
I have 2 boys, and that's what I'll do. I'll say, let's go for a ride, right? You know, I'll buy you a coffee or I'll buy you an ice cream or something. And then I start the conversation. And I know that they're so much more comfortable because they don't have to look at me, and they know that I can't look at them.
And if you are in a relationship where that seems to be the safest space, I would suggest coming up with the conversation and just starting very clearly on, hey, I want to talk about our intimacy, and I need to explain to you what is happening to me. I have seen a doctor. We've discussed it, right? So you're not coming in with, you're guessing. It's, you've had the discussion with the doctor. he seems to support that this is a menopause issue. And I need to explain to you, this is what's happening to me. And I want it to get better, but I need you to understand, and we need to have a conversation about this. And I want to know how you feel about it, because you want him to have an opinion. He might be like, I don't know. But to say like, well, when you do have a thought about it, let's have a chat. But it's those conversations, like I said, in the car. I have a child that crawls into bed with me, and she's a teenager, but she likes to talk about things with me that she doesn't like talking face to face in the dark. Right? So sometimes it is that you're lying in bed and in the dark and you're both awake, and you can start the conversation because you don't actually have to look at them yet, if that's the comfort zone you're in.
Yeah, I like that. And one thing I did with my daughter that could work with your husband, I'm not sure, I guess it depends on where you are. We started like a journal. It was like I bought a notebook from the dollar store. And when she had questions that she didn't know how to ask, or she wanted to, she was upset with me even, and she didn't want to say it to my face, she would write it down. And then she would leave the book by my bed, and then I would read it, and then I would sort of, reflect on it and then respond. And I mean, if that's what the kind of relationship you need to have, I mean, you can do it that way as well.
Absolutely. If it's an uncomfortable subject. But then to backtrack, if this is such an uncomfortable subject, where is that coming from as the person experiencing the
I was going to ask you that, right?
I mean, where does that sit in your heart? Why is there this mindset that you having a hard time? Because again, life experiences like traumas, so many things can affect how you have this conversation. So a lot of it, before you even probably have the conversation with your partner, is again, having the conversation with friends, a doctor, a therapist, a coach, anything that might help you kind of unpack a few things if you were definitely curious on why is this so challenging to me? Because if you can't get a comfortable conversation about sex, then you're not going to have comfortable sex at all.
Especially with someone that you're having sex with.
Yes.
Right.
Especially if they're a partner for a long time.
Exactly. I mean, if you're still, single and you're sort of, playing the field, as we used to say, that's different, because then they don't care, and you probably don't care much, right? Really, for your partner. But if it's someone you've been married to for a long time, or at least, been with for a long time, they need to be, I mean, surely they know they go through their own issues. Right.
They need to be part of the conversation. Absolutely.
They need to, exactly. Because if it was the other way around, they have to tell you as well. Right.
Yes. And so then here comes to me the biggest key to sex and intimacy in this age group is your brain is your most sexual organ, and you have to be able to have communication, and there's logic in there. You have to, you know what I mean? Like, it's that feeling of, you have to be able to understand what's locked in the brain here that is not allowing me to be open and communicative to somebody who I am currently intimate with. And I mean, there is this conversation could go on for days, because there's so many elements that come in and out. There's so many, unfortunately, if you are in a marriage and potentially are haven't had sex even before menopause, like years and years, right? There are other deep-seated issues. So this conversation where we're at is trying to get to that space where, if you are in a healthier relationship where this is a very important conversation, and you're eager and curious and you're still motivated to want to do it, you just need to understand that you need to start talking. Again, it all depends on where a person's at in their marriage as well, and in their partnership, because there's probably a lot that could get unpacked. And that's when, obviously, I would suggest you need to go to therapy. But if we go down to just the strict physical part of it, right? Like 30 to 50% of women in menopausal state has expressed concern about their libido. Like, it is a big red flag in our journey through menopause. So that's a lot. That is a lot of women.
Yeah. That is a lot. And I've heard women say where, they don't feel anything,
Yeah.
right? And so, during the process, I mean, she wants to still make him happy. And
Mm-hmm.
so she kind of just lays there, right? And allows him to do what he's got to do. And I mean, in one way, that is showing your love to him. But in other ways, it's like you're kind of lying to him, right?
Yeah.
Unless he knows, like if he knows that you're not feeling anything, but you're willing to, let him do what he's got to do, he could take that in two ways, right? Why don't you want me? Or,
Mm-hmm.
She wants me so much that she's willing to like be uncomfortable for me.
Exactly. And
right?
again, I don't know if that's the healthiest approach, because it's just going to cause resentment in your relationship, because there again, it's that lack of talk, lack of communication.
Right.
And
Communication is
so
the basics, right? Like, I mean,
it
you
is the
need to communicate.
absolute basics
Yeah.
of it all. And
Yeah.
again, there is so your libido, right? I mean, the reality of it is our estrogen and testosterone are diminishing as we get older. And that, of course, is going to affect our desire, our arousal, and our sex drive, like the biological part of it and the mental part of it. And it is a piece that people, you have to kind of step back and go, okay, how do I handle just the biological part? Right? It's like that's, that the hormones are going down, and women, a lot of us will start to suffer from vaginal atrophy, which is the thinning and lining of the vaginal canal. It causes pain, inflammation. So when it's come down to straight up, this really hurts, right?
So
No,
that's why it hurts. So
yeah,
it's not just the dryness, it's the actual, like when the lining is coming apart,
yeah,
and the inflammation obviously is swelling,
yeah.
right? And that is caused from the lack of hormone.
Yes, the hormones going down in our bodies is basically preventing. It's causing the atrophy, which is, imagine like any muscle any muscle in our body that atrophies becomes weaker, it becomes thinner, and the dryness, and it's just uncomfortable. It also affects the blood flow to our vagina, to the clitoris and that area. So you're no longer you're not it's harder to have an orgasm. It's more challenging, it's more uncomfortable. There People will complain that they just don't feel anything at all down there because there's no more blood flow. And so these are all things that, you go, well, that is the physical part of it. How do I address that first? Right? If it's coming down to like, okay, that is a doctor that needs to be brought into that picture. Right? Yes, you can try over the counter lubricants to sort of keep it, keep it going. But when it comes to the atrophy, a lot of times your doctor will suggest an actual estrogen cream. And an estrogen cream is a prescription. So Health Canada regulates that. You can't just buy it over the counter. And you have the conversation with your doctor. And obviously the reason for that is there's an estrogen in it, and depending on the person, right? If it's a safe alternative for them, because again, there's some women who just cannot have any hormones for a hormone type of replacement. Now, estrogen cream is one of the safest because it's localized, right? And it's absorbed through your skin. It's localized. You're not taking it orally, and it helps in your conditioning of your vagina to keep it in working order.
And so what does that look like? Does that look like you're using it daily, or just when you feel like you need it, or you may need it?
I personally, I do not know that answer. I just know that there are women who will probably use it daily depending on their situation. And then there are women who won't. But again, it would be a conversation with your doctor to say, like any medication, what do you prescribe? Is this a buildup? And it's an application. I mean, you put it on yourself. It's a cream, and so it gets absorbed into that specific area where you need it the most. So again, it's something I
Depends
would
on
have
your
the
story.
conversation.
Yeah.
It depends on your
Yeah.
story and
Yeah.
where you're at. But that is something, again, it comes to conversation. Start talking. If that is what is happening in your bedroom, you need to tell your partner, this is what's happening. It's not you. And it's something going on with my actual physical self. And I am going to go and have the conversation with my doctor to see if I can improve that piece. Right. And then there is obviously the motivation to want to do it, because there's so many women who are like, oh, I'm so thankful I don't have to do that anymore.
Poor men, right?
Right. And then you think to yourself, again, depends on your relationship with your partner. But motivation, then that comes to okay, so you could get the physical part sort of, I always think of getting yourself detailed. Make it all work. But then there is that, okay, how do we get into the mindset? Because our bodies, as we get older, like when you were younger, you didn't need a lot of touch and stimulation to get you wanting to have sex, right? You could just think about it, and it was like you get the tingles, and you're like, woo, here I go.
Yeah.
And so that sort of that feeling of spontaneity and desire starts to diminish because our hormones are going down. But it's always the motivation piece to me, is be open-minded and willing to the receptive to desire, meaning having that conversation with your partner, working on more intimacy and foreplay and lead up and touch, even touching and just snuggling on a couch, even just that, because you got to sort of allow yourself to relax and allowing the stimulation, because a lot of times, even with especially if you have the atrophy and you've taken care of that piece with the estrogen cream, the stimulation part to kind of get yourself going. But it's being open-minded to it's not going to be like when we were 25.
Right. It's going to change. It's going to change. So I'm wondering now, you said be open to it. And yet there's women that'll say, oh, I'm so glad I'm done with all that. Right.
Yeah.
So really what you're saying is, if our brains get so used to, our everyday life, that sort of, it kind of goes away, right? Where, you can, as soon as you think about it, you're like, oh, okay, let's go. Right. So we could really retrain our brain at that point, like right now, and say, but you do want it. Like you do want, to be intimate. Because let's face it, intimacy is not just the act of sex.
Exactly.
Right. It can be just, cuddling on the couch, or even just when you go to bed, spend, 20 minutes sort of recapping your day and holding each other. That's
exactly
right. It doesn't have to be the sex. Now that doesn't always satisfy the man, right? But sometimes it can be enough, right?
Yes. And
yeah.
It is definitely, but again, that is also not putting so much pressure so when we were younger, right, it was like, have sex, have the orgasm, move on, and not having so much pressure on getting to the final end, because again, it's harder to achieve, it's harder to get there. And it's to try to enjoy the journey, and having that conversation with your partner that, this is going to take a little bit. We might need to introduce a few things. And also, again, it's that open-mindedness and having the conversation. Intimacy can be just a date night. It can be holding hands and talking. And it could be just that, even intimacy with yourself on your own, preparing yourself mentally, because you're thinking, you know what? My partner, this is important to our relationship. This is an important piece to keep our relationship healthy. Sex is important to a relationship. It's just plain and simple.
It's reality. Yeah.
It is Absolutely. A reality. It is an important aspect. Yes, there's the snuggling. Yes, there's that type of intimacy, but there is still the action of sex. But your mind as a woman especially because there's a lot of blocks because our body is changing, right? And if that's the thing, body image comes in, confidence comes in. So then your brain is already playing with itself, going, so how can you be, and you stress yourself out, how can you be so tight because you don't like what you look like anymore? You don't like how you feel in your own self. That's where it's like, well, that's where you can start to work on your own mindset a little bit and maybe prepare yourself, sort of have like just an idea. It's like, have a hot bath. Do you know what I mean? Like, have a hot bath with just yourself. You know, I love my bath caddy. I love that thing. Right. Where, I put on like a show that is like interesting to me, and I sit in the hot tub and I have the candles just for myself because, sometimes when you pamper yourself, you do feel a little bit better in your skin.
Mm-hmm.
Right. Getting out of the bath and you feeling like more relaxed, and you put on your favorite moisturizer, and you really are sort of prim and prepping yourself, and put on something that makes you feel good. I am not saying go out to La Senza or La Via Rose and go drop a lot of money on, in my opinion, lingerie is beautiful and all, but it's like, really?
In your 20s, right?
Right?
In your 20s.
But it's also like for something that gets taken off within seconds, like, really?
Yeah, like
$1?
that's what I was thinking.
So,
Yeah. What's the point?
right? It's like, no, but
it's just as sexy.
there's something about getting into something that makes you feel good. And that could be the most, a comfy pair of undies and your husband's old t-shirt, right? Like something that just makes you feel like, ooh, and then approach it, and then bring in the conversation, and then maybe approach your partner. Like, you might now need to do a little more pre-work, pre-prepping, because, and then it becomes a little bit more of a conversation. You'd be able to sort of feel a little more comfortable in your own skin. Most of our partners are changed as well. It's not like our partners look the same way they did 10, 15 years ago.
No,
So why do we get so stuck into our, like, oh my God? I mean, they have seen you naked multiple times.
Right, exactly. And the thing is, and I mean, I don't know, not all men are the same, but I mean, they're different inside as well. Right.
Yeah.
And so what turns them on, as much as I hate that language, what turns them on today is different than what happened 20 years ago or 30 years ago, right? They still,
absolutely,
I mean, I would hope that they still look at you and they still see the beautiful woman that they fell in love with, right, with all her changes, right? And so like, if you look at it in their perspective, right, then when you look at yourself in the mirror, you're like, but I am still beautiful. Sure, I have wrinkles, and sure, I sag in places I don't want to be sagging, right? But I'm still me, right? I'm still the same person that he fell in love with however many years ago, right? So if
exactly,
I think that's what it comes down to, right, is putting ourselves in his shoes and looking at us through his eyes, because then I think that would make us feel a lot better, because we only look at ourselves usually in the mirror in our own eyes.
Exactly. And we see something very different. And to also maybe put yourself, like, drop into the idea that when you look at your partner, what are you saying? What are you thinking? You're most likely still looking at your partner as someone you love, somebody you want to be intimate with. If I'm hoping that obviously these are for healthy, good relationships, and we're not in everyone's shoes. This is not the answer to everybody.
Exactly.
But it is when you're in that moment, I'm not looking at my partner and judging on what he looked like 10 years ago, right? I'm in the moment and I want to be with that human being. I want the intimacy. And they come with a lot of different issues too, not just us, right? And they have to have that conversation. Sometimes it's just not working, but sometimes it's the foreplay and the fun, and I also believe in bringing in humor. To me, humor and laughing, because sometimes you have to laugh at it, and having those moments where you'll be giggling, that just brings in the comfort of the whole situation. And especially if it's been a partner for many, many years, it's nice to be able just to giggle and laugh and be in that type of intimacy and know that,
whatever happens is going to be
whatever
okay.
is going to happen is going to be okay. And if it doesn't follow through in that moment, like the full, you don't go the full 9 yards, that's okay too. It's the allowing yourself not to have don't put so much expectation to the end act. Lead up, get into it. And the next time, and then put a pin in it if you have to. And then it's like, okay, the next time you just keep moving into that, moving slowly steps back into that style of a relationship. It will most likely begin to pick up and your intimacy will look different. It's not going to look like you did at 25, but it's going to look
but we don't,
beautiful.
yeah, like life is different now. I mean, you've had, okay, in my case, I've been married, it'll be 28 years this year. 28, yeah, 28, right? We've had 28 years of being together. I mean, that it can be a heavy weight on a relationship, and it can be like make it lighter. I mean, you know each other so much more differently now than we did in our 20s. And so that you have to expect change, right? Now before menopause, we're talking like we're raising a family, we're, working in our careers, we're paying off mortgages, we're doing all these things that you don't maybe not think about your sexual relationship, right? And so you just kind of go with the flow. But now you're in your menopause years and you're like, I mean, people my age, our mortgages are paid off, our children are, if not already grown and out of the house, very close to it. And so the heavy part of living is done. Right.
Which is also sometimes, so this is not everybody's story in menopause is lack of libido and lack of a sexual healthy life with your partner. Some people have said it gets better because exactly what you said. I don't have to worry about bills anymore. I'm not as stressed anymore. The kids are gone. I don't have to worry about them walking in anymore. I don't have to worry about being pregnant anymore. Like there is this beauty that is associated with it that you kind of go, it's a huge freedom. And if you do have obviously the physical pieces that we need to address, but you want to, and you're willing and you're feeling like, no, I want to respark this again. And I'm going to go and do all the right steps I need to do to make it something that's tangible for me again, tangible for our relationship. Then, yeah, it can be very beautiful because you don't have all those worries.
Exactly. I mean, I think it's different for every single woman, right? But I think that this kind of conversation is great because it opens up that, I never thought about that, right? I wonder what my partner would think about that, right?
And exactly. And again, when you're dealing with the straight biology of it, your estrogen's dropping, your testosterone is dropping, there's less blood flow, right? There is going to be atrophy. It's going to be a little more challenging for an orgasm. Like there's definitely pieces that you will have to sit with your partner and let's have a talk and conversation. And if there's blocks, then you need to work on those pieces. Go and talk to a therapist. Even bring your partner and say, I think we need to have a conversation. I'd like to do a therapist because they can help bounce the conversation if you're open and willing. Right? And then getting to that, because all of these little pieces the puzzle will start to look a little bit bigger and brighter because you'll be able to realize, okay, check, I've dealt with the physical part. We need to do more of this and less of that. It's a different game plan.
Yeah, exactly. And the thing is, I think, excuse me, it's also very important to know that it's not going to be one conversation.
No, it is not going to be one conversation. And get curious. And so, yeah, we're talking about sex here, my friend. The best way to get curious as a woman is also to try to figure out what makes you tick. And that is usually a you and you. And if it means, because if your body is changing and everything is changing and what was working before is no longer working, how are you supposed to communicate to your partner what to do now? Because he's just going to do the same thing, right? He's just going to go, well, this worked, this worked, this worked, and now this is not working. So I would encourage, again, it's a person's comfort zone, but self-satisfying yourself, right? Masturbation is something that I would not, get curious, buy a toy, do something that you can figure out, almost like, all right, let me figure out how I work, how I tick, how is this, where do I feel more in this situation? Do you know what I'm saying? It's like,
kind of.
oh,
I'm a little confused here. So now masturbation and real sex are different.
absolutely different,
So
but
how
same
can the
terrain.
comparison help you? So
So same terrain, right? So our vaginas are changing. That's the reality. And so what might have worked before to bring us to an orgasm, right? To bring us to that space, because the blood flow is not there anymore, because there's a lot more effort and work. Then we get into our, like, you feel bad, you feel guilty, you're like, oh, I'm sorry, right? But if you can't, but you're also in your head going, why is this not working? I don't understand. Then sometimes it's like, okay, maybe get curious and maybe start trying to figure out yourself. How do I get myself to that level? How do I get myself to an orgasm? And you go, oh, wait a second, this works, this works, this works. Let's share that with my partner now. By the way, it's going to take longer. By the way, this feels better now for me. This position feels better. This handling of our, like, I need more oral sex. It's having the conversation in that way. But if you cannot necessarily point him in the right direction because you yourself are like, I don't know what works anymore. It's nothing wrong with getting curious about it. And again, that is to each his own. But sometimes when you become the master of your own, like, how you're
domain.
ticking, master of your own domain. Yes, thanks. Thank you, Seinfeld. Can you spare a square? That, and it's so true, because then you can now have the conversation a little bit with your partner. And sometimes it might be something that leads to, like, you need to pre-prep yourself. You don't know where this is going, but it's to sort of start. We are wise and older now and should be comfortable enough in our own sexuality and how we work. And if we aren't, then that's when I say, start having conversations, start talking, see therapists, see a coach, see someone that's going to help you unpack a bit, because the more you unpack your own mind, get into the mindset, the more you'll be able to rediscover yourself from that level, that physical level, so then you can share it with your partner. It's just an idea, and it works. The thing is, if we know how we tick, you can tell your partner, this is what I need now. This is where we need to go.
Yeah.
And
yeah, like we said, I mean, it's communication, right?
Yeah.
Like everything, right? Nothing can go forward if you're not open and willing to talk about it.
Yes.
I wanted to ask you too. So for the men, I mean, when they have their issues, they have the blue pill, right?
Erectile dysfunction. Yep.
Right. And so do they have like a medication like that for women other than this cream? Like, do they have something that's an oral, like a pill?
As far as I have ever heard, no. There is at this point, there's nothing, because again, so the atrophy can be handled with the cream, right? But again, it comes down to that arousal, right? The tingle, the arousal. I mean, men do require theirs to completely work. I mean, for us, there's a little different, we're built differently. We require it to be obviously ready, and there needs to be lubricant and moisture to make it comfortable. But to me, it's your mind. That's the brain thing. And, it's to try to make sure that you are, and again, what gets you in the mood? Is it watching Outlander? Like,
I've heard that show is pretty good.
Very good. Right? Is it reading a book? Is it like, there's just so many things that it's like, oh, well, I don't know what causes my tingle anymore. And to get that tingle again, it's you yourself have to kind of go, I don't know. Like, where does it come from? Is it just looking at your partner and they just kind of, the way he touches your hand or the way he touches your neck, or,
sometimes it's memories, right? When you see them doing something and you think, my God, remember back when, before kids and we did this, and all of a sudden it's like, you kind of spark that little bit of energy. Yeah. I have
Just
one more.
listening to music, man. Like it's getting,
Yeah.
like I know myself personally, like my partner and I, we love like to listen to some vinyl and go back. It's like going, and I have only known him for almost 8 years. So he wasn't part of my high school life, but it's almost like we both go warp speeding back to the 80s, and we listen to vinyl, and you're just sitting there and you're just having conversation, almost like you're telling each other stories. And it's just those moments where you're like, we're in a zone. I love it. And
I
let's
guess
get
that's what
there.
it comes down to, is whatever it's going to take to get you into that bond, right? That moment. So I have another question.
Yeah.
It seems to me that everything that happens always comes back down to lifestyle, right?
Mhm.
Drinking water, exercising, body, mind, and soul. And so obviously self-care has a lot to do with what we're going through in every department of our life, I think, right? If we don't look after ourselves, we can't be the best that we can be. What is your suggestion then on and how does it affect our libido during menopause?
Absolutely. Oh my gosh. Like, think it's an activity, right? It all goes hand in hand. Obviously, nutrition, making sure that you're putting good foods into your body, and water, because water creates lubrication. Water keeps us hydrated. It is a hydration that is required for our vaginas to stay supple and ready. Movement is so important, because first of all, it's great for our mental health. It's great for our bodies. You keep your joints, you keep your flexibility, you do keep your strength, right? You keep some that it's good for your skin. But there's something about, do you not feel after you work out or after you've gone for a walk, you feel so good in your heart, in your body, you feel confident. So that carries into the bedroom. Because if you feel like, I know when I work out and I've showered and it's like, ooh, all right, I feel good. And that comes into everything that you're going to be doing. And there are supplements as well that do cater in that area. So if you're going to see a naturopath, I know that some of the top ones are like maca, ashwagandha, vitamin D. Like, those are things that, introducing those into your diet, again, talk to your naturopath about it so you get a good one. And if it's something that would fit what you need, those elements do help with energy. They help with blood flow, right? And keeping our red blood cells healthy. And red blood cells are necessary. We need the flow to keep everything going and moving. So yeah, it really does come down to, and when you're doing beautiful self-care and you're investing in your even just journaling and mindset, like it just aligns you to who you are here in your heart and in your mind and your soul, then you bring it into your relationships, and it does go into the bedroom. Because when you're aligned and you're feeling good in that space in your skin, nothing's going to stop you. You're
Right.
going to want to bring your partner into it too.
Absolutely. And he's going to see that. He's going to see
the glow. You're
right.
glowing. He's going to, it doesn't matter the physical part. Yes, we change. Like you said, things are shifting, things go in different directions, right? I mean, our breasts are not as high as they used to be.
That's the first thing that goes.
like, wow, that's a change. But
although that's not a menopause thing, that's childbearing, right?
Yes, I breastfed, absolutely. Like, those children did a number on those babies. But again, it's like when you're in that feeling and you're investing in your mind and your body and your soul, when you're investing that part and doing proper self-care, you glow, and your husband or partner is going to see that, and they want to be part of it, because they see that they're just going to see your confidence. Let's face it, we've changed, but the partners in our life love it when we're happy and confident. That's what makes it beautiful to them.
And that's what attracted them in the first place. And now you're growing that. Yeah, exactly.
Oh yeah. And
that sounds
teaching
awesome, actually.
and teaching, and also I think it's good and healthy, especially if you have children and even adult children. Them seeing you doing these things, it's healthy for them to see as well, right? Because they need to see that their families and like that they're still holding in the hands and investing in that. Like, this is how you make this work. You can go through the trenches in your marriages and in your partnerships, but when you continuously invest in your partner and in yourself, it's going to come out to be good in the long run.
Absolutely, 100%. So we covered a lot.
We did.
I'm so excited. I cannot, like, I want to hear what our listeners think about this conversation. And if there's any questions, I'm going to be contacting you for sure.
Absolutely.
Is there anything, this is a big conversation and everyone is going to have different, but if there's anything that you could give our listeners as a pointer or a piece of advice, or, you said be curious. I know that's a huge piece of advice right there. But is there anything that you want our listeners to know from you today that we already haven't talked about?
Well, honestly, I want them to understand that what they're sitting in probably currently, a lot of them, and that this is probably a red flag in their life, that they're not alone, that it's okay and it's normal. It's very, very normal in menopause to go through this libido stage, and that all you need to do is ask a question, reach out, talk to people. And if the first person is your bestie, then talk to your bestie. And if you're feeling that that's not going to be a conversation, go to your doctor and just really start talking. And I can't repeat more than just, you have to be curious, because you have to understand, now it's normal, the physical part of it, this is normal, and this is what's happening with your body. Straight, plain and simple. Estrogen, testosterone, it's all coming down. It's affecting a lot of our bodies, our organs, our skin. It's a real thing. Okay, check. But now, try to now sink in and go, how important is this in my life? How important is this in my relationship? And if you're feeling like it is important and I need to address it, then you need to get curious and start asking questions and reach out. Reach out to you, reach out to me, reach out to anybody you might want to trust and can confide in, to say, I really am curious and I don't know what to do.
Perfect. That's awesome. Now I have one more question. When this perimenopause is over and we enter the postmenopausal stage, how does that affect our libido? Is it normal for it to come back, or like have a new normal? Because it's not going to come back. Obviously, we're lacking in some, important things in our body. But is it common for it to, like, for us to sort of get over that part, or does that sort of stay? If the perimenopause stage, is hard to go through as far as libido, does it continue?
Truth be told, the perimenopause is physically easier than post. So post is where you're probably going to get more of the atrophy, more of the very much like, this is the physical part and you need to address it. And that's where your doctor will come in. And that's where you will ask the questions about creams and anything that can work on, freshening up the vagina to make it. And it is a matter of, how do you feel about it sex-wise in your post years, how important it is to you and your intimacy and your partner. Because I think you can relight it again, because it's like everything calms down, right? You just kind of, all right, we're here, we're in it, here's the phase, everything levels off again. So no, I don't think it comes right back up again. I don't think you go back to,
So that's when the work begins, is once you hit the postmenopause.
Once you've hit the postmenopause, your mindset shifts and changes. And that's where I think, because once you've come to accept that you're in menopause, like I'm accepting of it, but it's the physical actual part of it, the actual atrophy. that's where you need to address it more in that phase. But I also think a lot of times as women, we're also in this beautiful arc of knowledge and wisdom that once we fix that piece, or once we address that piece, we're just more free to have the conversation and talk and the wisdom and that. And then I think your intimacy will end up increasing because you're no longer so afraid of the menopause. Perimenopause, everyone's just so scared of it.
But really, it's the postmenopause that we should be more not scared of, because it's part of life. We're going to hit it anyway, but we should be more concerned with our postmenopause than our perimenopause.
We need to enter it like, so peri is more of a mind thing. Like if you were playing with our mind and we're noticing the differences and we're holding on to not change, right? We hold on. I don't want it to change. Why is it not the same? Oh my God. Oh my God. And then it's once you get into the winter phase and into the second spring, right? That phase in life, we're now in menopause. If we have the tools by in perimenopause and going, okay, this and this and this is going to be happening. It's already happening. Let's get in front of it. Let's be proactive and know that atrophy is going to be a real thing with me, most likely, or it's going to become a problem. Let's talk to my doctor now, right? Get in front of the truck.
Especially when you know, because you can't unknow what you already know.
You can't unknow what you already know. And if you could be proactive in that phase, when you get to that phase, you'll be able to go, oh, okay, all right, I know what this is. I know what I need to do next. And this is what I'm going to do. And then you're to me, you're just in a better position. Knowledge is power. But right. The physical part, perimenopause, there's still there's so many fluctuations, right? We still have the hormones fluctuating up and down. So there is still flow. There's still things, it's diminishing, but it's not quite.
Right. So if you're the type of person that sort of just goes with the flow and, you know, whatever happens is going to happen anyway, you should ease into the postmenopause a little bit easier.
I would,
because you're not doing the mind, you know, because the mind can play so many games with your body, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So the best thing is just to sort of sit back and let it happen, because it's going to happen anyway.
It's going to happen anyways. And again, there's so many different symptoms to menopause. We're just focusing on this one piece of it, because then people will get hormone replacement therapy, and that's a totally different ball of wax if they're ingesting the hormone, right? That keeps everything still going. It's especially those who are, I know, like myself, don't do HRT. We're doing this the ride or die kind, right? And it's keeping us informed on what can we do. And again, talking to naturopaths, talking to your doctor, but knowing what's probably coming is better. And then you can address it better also in front with your partner. Start a conversation now and saying, hey, I just learned this and I've noticed some changes. And you know what? This is probably what's going to happen. So let's talk. Let's get in front of this. Let's journey this together so we can keep our intimacy at peak, so we can keep our relationship healthy. I'm learning these things and I want to make sure to get in front of it.
I love that. I really love that. And I think it all comes back down to communication. Be open, be willing to hear the truth, and be willing to share what you learn.
Share what you learn with your partner, because you would want him to do the same.
Yeah.
Right. And you or her, depending on the relationship you're in, you're going to want your partners to be doing the same. If they're going through it. I mean, we all put so much on ourselves and we try to muddle through things alone. And it's like, but that's not the word. That's not how partners work.
No. And I don't know why we do that. Like, really, why do women do that to themselves? It's so, like, honestly, sometimes I'm like, my mom did everything on her own. And I'm like, why? She's so brittle right now today because, you know, she took everything on and didn't deal with any of this stuff. Right. And then, and when I asked her, she said, oh, you just don't feel the same anymore.
Yeah.
And I'm like, what does that mean exactly? Right. Like, you know, I mean, I didn't feel the same after I had kids, but it wasn't a bad thing. Right. Like, you know what I mean? And so I don't know if it's a generation thing.
It's a generation thing. Like, we did not feel the same after having children. The hormone fluctuate. It's the same thing.
Exactly.
Right? The hormones all over the place. Like, our bodies went through like a beautiful thing, but it's traumatic. Right? Like it's a lot that happened. And as women, we are very blessed with these really cool, intricate bodies that go through so much. It really is an amazing what we do.
Oh, I think we're blessed to be women, honestly. I mean,
Like,
there's stuff that,
it's
I'd
incredible.
rather not deal with, right? But at the same time, I wouldn't trade it. I wouldn't trade my life.
Neither would I.
No.
But it is so cool when you think about what our bodies do at all these different phases of life. But if we could only just keep the conversation open in a women's environment and in a women's supportive environment, we wouldn't be walking so blindly all the time.
Isn't that the truth? Isn't that the
Right?
truth? Yeah. Well, I want to say thank you so much because I know we can talk for hours.
We could.
I know. We should have opened this up to like an actual talk show and had like callers come in, because I think we would have had like super, like, honestly, I think we could have gone lots of directions. So thank you so much for being with me today. And we may just happen to do this again in a few months.
Absolutely. I would love to keep coming back. Your show is amazing, and I love the support, and I love supporting you. And
Awesome.
again, I hope your listeners, walk away with something, a little golden nugget from this, and they start talking.
Absolutely, I agree. Maybe tell us your website again, so if anyone wants to get in touch with you, they can.
Okay, so it's www.soulfulflow.ca, or you could just Google Allison Prest, and I'll be there.
Awesome. Thank you again, Allison.
Thank you.
Confidence in Bloom is a celebration of self-love, a confirmation that even though you may not look like a screen star or a supermodel, they don't even look like that. You're an amazing, desirable, brilliant, gorgeous, talented woman. We offer unconditional love to our partners, our children, our extended family, even our pets. It's high time we got out of our own way and learned to unconditionally love ourselves. In Full Bloom Styling and Coaching offers an online course combined with one-on-one coaching in confidence building, personal branding, and creating your signature fashion look. Chic definitely does come in every shape. So if you want something to believe in, start with yourself. If you'd like to be a guest here on Confidence in Bloom, contact me through Instagram at infobloomstyling or by email at tina@infobloomstyling.com or through the Divas That Care website.
Thanks for listening. This show was brought to you by Divas That Care. Connect with us on Facebook, on Instagram, and of course on divasthatcare.com, where you can subscribe to our newsletter so you don't miss a thing.